Okay, I'm so out of breath right now. Hello everyone, my name is Tasha and today I'm bringing you my January wrap-up. Why am I so out of breath? I read a total of 9 books. The first book I finished this year and this month was The Forgotten Ones by Laura Howard. Now, this was one of the books that I bought or downloaded for free several months ago because it was really cheap or free as an ebook. And it was just sitting on my Kindle, and one day I was like, okay, I'm just gonna start a random book without looking up what it's actually about. And I picked this book up, and for the longest time I wasn't sure if it was contemporary or fantasy or paranormal or whatever. Throughout the book I figured out that this was a book about fays, and the main character, whose name I don't remember right now, she is kind of thrust into this world of fays and things. It wasn't one of those books that sticks with me, but I did write down that I did enjoy it and I will probably continue the series eventually. It is part of a trilogy, the Danan trilogy? I don't know. I gave this book 3.5 stars. The next book I finished was The Awakened by Sarah Elizabeth Santana, and this is one of the books that was published by Off Tomes Publishing, the micro publishing company that Benjamin of Tomes has created, founded, whatever. I was really interested in this book because it's about a kind of zombie, not actually zombies, but a creature like zombies. So I was really intrigued by that. I haven't read many zombie books, but for some reason I'm kind of drawn to them. And this one sounded really interesting. In this book, this virus breaks out, which kind of changes people. They end up dying, but then they're alive again, but they've changed. Their skin is blue, they have totally black eyes, and like razor sharp teeth. I think that's how it was. I hope I'm remembering that right. And these zombie type people are starting to attack humanity, or the city, New York. This takes place in New York. One day, Zoe, her dad, and her neighbor Ash decide to run away because the city is going to be bombed in hopes of eradicating this virus that has spread. So Zoe, her dad, and her neighbor Ash, who she really doesn't like, they leave New York and just try to survive. I really enjoyed this book. It was very hooking. I loved the dynamic between Zoe and her dad. I loved that her dad was part of this adventure. Usually the parents are like left out, but he was part of this adventure and I loved that so much. And also the dynamic of those two with Ash was really fun. I did have some issues with Ash's behavior. He was kind of a bully, and there are explanations for that behavior, but I still wasn't okay with it. But I still kind of liked him. I don't know if that makes sense. It wasn't perfect, but I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 stars, and I think it's just a duology. I'm very excited for that second book. The next book I read absolutely blew my mind, and that was The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. I actually did a book talk on this book because I just had to get my feels and thoughts out there, because this book, oh my god, it absolutely blew my mind. It was so amazing. Such a well done fantasy book. I gave it 5 stars, obviously, and I will link my book talk down below so you can see what my thoughts were and how my mind was blown by this book. But I will say in this video, the world building in this book was so amazing. I loved it so much. It was so well done, and I also really liked the characters. Another ebook that has been sitting on my Kindle for way too long, and that is Addicted to You by Becca and Krista Ritchie. This is a new adult series. In this book, the focus is on Lily, who is a sex addict, and Lauren, who is an alcoholic. They're best friends, and they work together to keep each other's addictions a secret, and they pretend to be together, and all these explanations, and a lot of things happen. It was so good, so good. I really enjoyed this. There are so many books out in this whole universe. There's the Addicted series, and then also the Calloway sisters. And I looked up the recommended reading order because I really want to read them in that order. So I will definitely continue on with these books. In this book, Addicted to You, my favorite characters were Lauren and Connor. I love Connor and I cannot wait to read about him and his stories. Oh, I don't think I mentioned this, but I rated this 4 stars. And then I continued my Harry Potter reread with The Chamber of Secrets. I got these Bloomsbury editions for Christmas and they really made me want to reread the books. Yeah, there's not really much to say. I only rated this 4 stars because Chamber of Secrets has always been my least favorite. At some part, it did take me a while to get through. I think part of the reason is because every time I try to reread the Harry Potter series, I always stop after the Chamber of Secrets. So I've read the first and second books so many times, and then usually I forget to continue on with my reread, but I really want to pull through this time. But I still love this book. It's not that I like hate it, but it's just my least favorite of all 7. And then I finally continued on with the Throne of Glass series with Heir of Fire. The beginning of Heir of Fire was really slow for me and such a challenge to get through. While I did like Selena in the second book, the first half of this book I really didn't like her. I don't know what it was, but something about her narrative that I just don't like, and at some points where I was really annoyed with her. But luckily the second half of this book really picked up for me. I absolutely loved Rowan, and at some point I really enjoyed his bond that was starting to grow with Selena. I don't know if that sentence made any sense, but I really liked Rowan and his friendship with Selena. My heart was breaking all over the place for Cale. I know he did some things that weren't quite okay, but I just can't help but love Cale so much, and no matter what he does, I'm still gonna love him. I really enjoyed Manon's character, and I especially loved her first point of view, where I was like, oh my god, I love this character so much, but then the rest of her point of views were so boring in my opinion. It was weird because I really liked Manon's character, but I didn't like her point of views. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I felt. And lastly, Dorian. I just want Dorian to be happy, and what happened to him at the end of the book was not fair, and he did not deserve that. Oh my god, I just need Dorian to be happy. He deserves some happiness. I gave this book 3.5 stars because there was a big part of the book that I didn't really enjoy. After that hefty book of Heir of Fire, I needed a short book and something easy to get through, so I read Everything by Nicola Yoon. I heard from a lot of people that this book was really fast to get through, and it was, because there are these graphics and also these chats, so it was quite easy to get through this book. This book was quite hyped last year. I think it kind of still is. I don't know. Everyone still talks about this book. It's about this girl, Maddie. She is allergic to everything, so she's spent her whole life at home, never leaving the house, and with air filters and that kind of stuff. And then one day a family moves in next door and she shows some interest in the neighbor's boy. That's all I'm gonna say. There was a plot twist in this book, and thinking about it now, it seems kind of predictable, but I did not see it coming, so that was a nice surprise. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4.5 stars. Yeah, gave it 4.5 stars. Such an amazing book, and the ending left me wanting so much more. It's also very beautiful. I love this cover so much. The next book I read was a book for review, and that book is The Haunting by Alex Bell. I requested this on NetGalley. This book was about Emma. She's in a wheelchair. She's visiting her grandma, who is very sick. In this city, her grandma used to own this hotel called the Water Witch, but it has been closed down because apparently it's being haunted. Emma starts seeing lights and people in that house, in that hotel, so she goes to check that out and sees that her childhood friend Jem is there and his sister. They've been staying there because they have some family problems, and all 3 of them realize that things aren't quite as normal in the Water Witch. What do I have to say about this book? There are 3 different point of views from Emma, Jem, and his sister Shell. At the beginning of the book, the focus is more on Emma's point of view, but then at some point, the focus is mostly on Shell. Jem's sister. She believes that she is a witch and she sees all these weird different things happen in the Water Witch and people don't believe her. So I understand that there's a lot of focus on her character, but I would have preferred more point of views at that point from Emma and Jem. They felt kind of neglected in my opinion. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. It was just, I just rated this 2.5 stars. There were some scenes that kind of creeped me out, but it wasn't really that scary. I'm not that familiar with horror books, so I don't know how good of a horror book it was. And the last book I read in January, I just finished this morning. Technically, this month isn't over, but I'm pretty sure I'm not going to finish another book by today or tomorrow. The amazing book that I read was Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. I'm pretty sure most of you know what this book is about, but if you do not know and you're like new to booktube and to books and my channel or whatever, Carry On is about Simon Snow. He is in his last year at Watford, a magic school in England. There's this evil person that's trying to kill him, and then there's also Simon's roommate, Baz, who has kind of always hated him and they've always kind of tried to like kill each other. Simon Snow is part of a prophecy that claims he is the chosen one. Simon thinks he's like the worst chosen one that could have been chosen. He's not really good at magic and he sometimes like goes off and it like explodes with magic. I don't really know how else to explain this book right now, but oh my god, it was so amazing. I loved this book so much. I devoured it in like 2 days. I don't even know what to say right now. I loved Baz. Baz was probably my favorite character in this. He's such a sarcastic little shit and I love him so much. And another thing I really appreciated, I'm pretty sure not everyone would agree with this, but there was a lot of swearing in this book. I actually like that in books, and I get why most authors don't put that in their books to make them more appropriate, but I really appreciate it when there's actual swearing in a book, so I really like that. This book has also made me laugh so much. Seriously, I don't think I've read a book that has made me laugh out loud as much as this one. I plan on doing a book talk about this book. Not sure if it's gonna happen. I really hope it will because I have so many things to talk about and I don't want this video to be too long, so I'm gonna say I'm gonna do a book talk and I hope by saying this and putting it in a video that I'll actually do it. Oh, I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but I obviously gave this book 5 stars. So those were the books that I read in January. Tell me down below the books that you read in January or your favorite books of the month. And that was it for this video and I will see you next time. Bye! At some part it oh my god, I cannot talk. I just can't. Oh my god, my foot is falling asleep. And I especially loved her favorite